fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. I've had fibromyalgia for about 25 years.
I found out that I had fibromyalgia back in 2005, achy pain, and we couldn't figure out why, so he'd done a lot of tests.
About 2 years into it, I went to a physician who said, you might have this new thing they're calling chronic fatigue syndrome. And I said, can I harm myself by pushing through? And he said, we don't think so. Well, that's way different now.
I am here because I have chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia.
Fibromyalgia, not CFS.
That fibromyalgia is a uniquely individual experience, though there is a cluster of symptoms.
It was about in the 80s when I read an article in the paper about chronic fatigue, and then they had a list of all the symptoms, and I felt fit into most of those categories.
Widespread pain through my nerves. I get it through my muscles. I get the tingling pain, like it feels like a million pokers are going through your body. I also get burning sensations.
Well, I was going about 100 miles an hour and ended up going less than zero. Stopped me dead in my tracks. I tried to take medical leave from work. I thought for sure if I just rested really, really good for 6 months, I would be able to, come back, and it just didn't happen.
And it just kind of progressed, just got more and more pain, and it just seemed to progress and get worse and worse.
Because I was curled up in bed, or my family would pack me off to the doctors to try to find out what was happening. I thought I was going to die, and there were times that I really wanted to die.
When I'm at my worst, it feels like a really, really bad flu, just like a really bad headache, cloudy head, you can't think clearly, word recalling is hard, like I can't remember my phone number and basic things like that, just like if you were really sick, and body aches and pain, and depending, sometimes sore throat and swollen glands and tummy problems.
The fatigue, the constant sore throat, the feeling like I'm getting every little virus, and I did have some lung issues where I felt like I couldn't breathe, intense anxiety.
I started having symptoms as a young child, so I think 4 is when I really discovered that I had a kind of a personality change, and that I was angry a lot of the time, which I think was the pain.
It was a relief because there was something actually wrong with me and nobody thought I was crazy anymore. Least of all me, I thought I was crazy for a long time.
I just was like, what? What's that? I'd never heard of the word. I'd never heard of the illness. So I was really surprised.
Well, when my doctor said, I want you to go see a rheumatologist, I immediately thought, well, I don't think I have arthritis. That doesn't sound like we've been looking at that. And he said, I think you might have fibromyalgia. And I said, I don't know what that is. Can you help me understand a little more?
Up there, before you could get an appointment, she sent, it was like a 40-page questionnaire. And even just filling out that questionnaire was validating, because it would say, do you have dry eyes? Do you have problems remembering? Do you, after you exercise, does it take you a long time? All these things. And for me, I'm like, really? So this could be part of it? And so that was validating. And so I would crash and then just not come up quite, crash again until the crash was so deep I couldn't get out of it. So the important thing is to recognize it and listen.
It was such a relief, and it was so good to know that there was a doctor who actually was invested in what I had and wasn't just trying to write me off as a depressed, lazy patient. To have acknowledgement and have the support of a doctor just was a huge relief and a burden taken off of my shoulders.
I think the recognition of the disease is very helpful, because I went through, the 30 years where where there's nothing wrong with you and you're just a hypochondriac or you're emotionally unstable, all of those kinds of things. And they would all of the doctors would send me to a psychiatrist.
Yeah, it was. It was more of a relief than a concern. At least there's a direction.
Well, he explained it to me, and I immediately got on the internet and, looked up everything I could about it, got books about it. I had a friend who'd had it, and she talked to me about it, and yeah, it was devastating. It was devastating.
I was just sure I would get over it. And so, if anybody would have told me the realities, I probably would have been in bad shape.
There was no going back to who I was before. And so accepting that, there was a grief period to know that I couldn't resume some of my former enjoyable activities and that I wanted still to be part of my family's lives. But those were difficult. We couldn't have the Christmas parties and the 4th of July parties at our house anymore.
Oh, it changed it totally. And this just brought me to a complete and absolute stop. So I then spent almost 10 years right in bed.
Realistic now, I can still do music, but I have to rest a lot and my energy isn't what it used to be. So my life has definitely taken a different course than what I thought it would have been. I have lost a couple of friends from having this illness because they don't believe that I really am sick and think I'm making it up and being dramatic, and that's been hard. It's helped me be a lot more empathetic towards people who are struggling in their lives. So I don't think I would be the same person I am now if I wouldn't have had this illness.
But I did get very afraid of exercise. And I got very selfish with my energy, and I didn't want to use it exercising, and I didn't want to use it fixing food, and it was actually counterproductive. Yes, some positives. I think relationships with my family has improved. I've had to be more humble with how I can spend my time and with asking for help.
I take a lot of naps, try to eat well. Right now I'm just trying to listen to my body and try to relax and not fight it. That's a challenge for me to just accept it and go with it. But any support that you can get, the offer meetings, getting to know other people with the same illness, it's just so validating and important to know that you're not alone, that you're not crazy, that you're not making it up.
Good movies, a good book, wrapping up in, tactile things because of the pain. Is having like soft blankets and pillows and stuff to wrap up in, as well as having the phone handy, calling a friend, calling a family member. If I just call and say, "What are you doing?" If I'm not talking about myself, if I'm I just want to hear what they're doing to get my mind off of me. That helps me.
I've done a lot of thinking and studying about neurochemicals and how emotions are neurochemicals. And so what I finally realized after learning tools with a psychologist, that was very, very important.
And the other is to simplify your environment. The act of leaving your house is a very complex act. I mean, you have to, get dressed, get what you're taking with you, make sure the stove's off, all those kind of things that you do, take care of the dog, and then leave. And when you're really quite ill and your cognition isn't very good, that's very difficult. So at that time, she had me write down a list that I actually checked off before I leave the house, and that simplified that. So I got an iPod that will alert me time to get ready for such and such. Number one in helping me get through this has been my faith. If I didn't feel like God was aware of me and helping me, it would be extremely difficult. And I think that you have to have an attitude that, yes, this is my new life, and I'll do what I need to do, but there's hope. But to realize that there is a new normal, that you with going through the therapies and taking care of yourself the way that Dr. Bateman and others ask you to, that you can do much better and that you can have a happy life.
On a vacation a couple weeks ago to Glacier National Park, and I wanted to be able to go on some of the hikes up to the waterfalls, so I rested all day in the car when we drove there, and I was able to go on a hike, but I made sure that I would stop and take a half-hour break in between the hikes, so I was able to do that, and that was a really good day for me. Granted, I did sleep a lot the next couple of days, but I was glad I got to go see the waterfall.
I did feel very unsupported. Once my husband became more educated, that was very helpful. And he would go to doctor's appointments with me eventually. He did that. That was very helpful because he could kind of give an objective point of view on things. And then he was educated in that process as well. I did join a support group through the Offer organization, and it's very, very helpful. I did join a walking group recently, very helpful. And I think once my husband really, I'm not sure how to say this, just understood how real it was, it made a huge difference. The medications did not work for me. It's the need of being out in sunlight. Sunlight has been huge for me. And I go outside every day of the year if I can, at least 10 minutes, even if it's just on my balcony.
I think a recognition that you can't muscle this through, that you just can't make yourself do everything. It just doesn't work. But I think what helps me the most now is when I'm tired, to rest. So sleep, of course, was my number one thing. Sleep was the thing that helped me. And I'm willing to try things. I'm willing to try new exercise. I'm willing to try, if it only helps you 5%, it's 5% difference. Yeah. Just to sit and just live with it is impossible.
Rest. Just rest. Being believed. Being believed.
Reach out to other people, because the people who live with this condition have a lot of wisdom and a lot of good experience. Our families do support us and they want to help us, but sometimes they don't know what to do. That support inside of those support groups is invaluable, and that actually gives an opportunity for the family to rely on another system to help the family to stay intact.
Don't give up and you're not crazy.
So first, I would educate yourself and realize that it can be other things. So don't self-diagnose. That's the worst thing. Go to a physician. Try and find one who's interested in it or knows about it, and get a diagnosis. Because until you have a diagnosis, you can't really move forward. I didn't stop and stand still and treat it. So the important thing is to recognize it and listen, but have the self-discipline to really identify what you can and can't do. Try to do the mild exercises that can keep your body from being so deconditioned, because if you're deconditioned, there comes a point where how much of this illness is deconditioning and how much is the illness.
Take one day at a time and realize that you can find happiness in your life. You just have to find it in a new way. You can't depend on the old things that used to be happy. Like, find new things to bring joy and peace into your life.
It's real, and no matter what people say, there's a stigma, and you don't have to tell everybody about it. You have to take care of yourself. only you know what you need really in the long run.
So prayer is a very essential part of how I continue to function.
I allow myself some time to, sometimes I cry, just to let the emotions out, or sometimes I'll watch a video that I enjoy. Something that engages my emotions and helps me process those neurochemicals. This person that you love that has this condition really does still have the same love for life.
So, and have a positive outlook. Well, I think the biggest thing that helped me is having the support that I have. Common sense says I should not go, but you take medications or whatever, and you go anyway because it's, you know, it's a family event or it's a wedding, it's a whatever, and you feel like you need and you want to be there. So
And your whole life changes, but there's some really upsides to the change. You hit rock bottom, but you get through it.
But it's using judgment that your body does not work the same as other people's, and that you have to accommodate that. I think it's a difficult disease in that it is so hard to track. It's so hard to estimate what you're going to be able to do in the next few years. Trying to visualize your future, that's the most difficult thing, I think.
But my husband is a tremendous help. My support system is pretty small as far as friends. You know, all my friends have just kind of dropped away, so it's pretty isolating, which has been really hard.
But he's just there, being there, loving me, holding me when I need held, and you know, that's all anybody needs, really.
So it's important to have good friends and family that stay by you. It took my family being really supportive and amazing, my 2 sons who were adoring and loving and amazing, friends, good, counselor, psychiatrist, all of that was crucial. You know, it does take a good team.
I've been really lucky to have the support of my parents. Probably they believe me when I say I'm tired, and they listen, and they are okay if I have to like miss a family event because I'm tired. They don't put pressure on me or make me feel bad for not being able to do things. I found a wonderful guy that I got married to 3 years ago, and he's really supportive, and he doesn't put pressure on me. He understands. He'll tell me to rest, and in that sense, I have a really good support system.
When a husband really believes and understands it and acknowledges it, it is huge.
He's the key ingredient, and you can see that that is an area of deep-seated happiness for me. Couldn't do it without him type of thing.
you know, it's hard enough for just a normal person, but when you're exhausted and, you know, fatigued and can't think, it's, you know, without a good support system, you can't do it.
That's a very important term, a center of excellence, and I don't think that most people who are involved with illnesses understand the importance of having a center of excellence. It would change the Intermountain region to be able to engage the physicians and the patients in a center of excellence.
Oh, we need that desperately. The other thing is that for patients, we need a central place where there's a multidisciplinary approach.
Oh yeah, every piece that you can get. You know, I mean, right now they're kind of a little bit here and a little bit there, and you know, you try and just piece them together. But if everything was all in one place, it'd be fabulous. It'd be fabulous.
It would be wonderful, because I think she could bring in a lot of things under one roof, and just having a center would provide a place where more people could have access, I'm sure. I think it'll be wonderful.
The center will have available to it those modalities of treatment, or have at least a referral service to those. all in the same place. Wouldn't it be nice if I could go to one place? The fibromyalgia mall.
So you really feel isolated. But just to talk with other people that are experiencing the same kinds of things and what they do that works.
That means a great deal to me. It means that there's going to be groups of people that can come together to try to solve this.
Oh, I'm sure it would be. Absolutely. Yes.
In order to get through this illness, it's important to have like hope. There's research to find a cure, and I'm young, and so I think, well, maybe, you know, if we keep getting research, maybe like the second half of my life, I might be feeling a lot better. And so I would say it's a symbol of hope for me.